Tonight on Insights on PBS Hawaii. The University of Hawaii at Manoa's Division I Intercollegiate Athletic Program has long been a presence in our community to help promote student achievement and entertainment for island residents. In light of the recent fallout from the Stevie Wonder concert fiasco, Insights explores the role of UH sports. Now, live in our studio, our host, Dan Boylan.
Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Dan Boylan. The ongoing investigation into the Stevie Wonder concert scam has brought new scrutiny to the University of Hawaii's athletic program. This benefit event was organized in an effort to help reduce a ballooning budget deficit of over $11 million. To add to its financial woes, the University of Hawaii football team, the department's top sports revenue generator, is struggling through a losing season. Its record currently stands at 1 win and 8 losses. Tonight on Insights, we'll examine the role of Division I intercollegiate sports. Does our sizable investment of resources help promote academic achievement at the University of Hawaii? Does the program help or diminish the core mission of an already budget-strapped public university? Who are the stakeholders in this discussion, and are all being heard? We are joined tonight by veteran sports observers and representatives from the University of Hawaii faculty and from the University of Hawaii's athletic department to explore the challenges facing the university's sports program. You can join our discussion by calling, emailing, or tweeting your questions and comments for our panelists. The contact information you now see on your screen will be repeated throughout the program. We also want to remind you that Insights is live on both your television and computer screens. It's streaming on our website right now at pbshawaii.org. This program will also be posted online. Now to our panel on UH Sports. Since 2004, John McNamara has served as the University of Hawaii's Associate Athletic Director for External Affairs. He supervises the department's marketing activities, corporate partnerships, and oversees broadcast and internet operations. John also assists with the administration of the NCAA and the Athletic Conference regulations. Known as the voice of UH sports, Jim Leahey comes from a sports family dynasty that represents 3 generations of sportscasters, starting with his father, Chuck. He is also the co-host with son Manoa of PBS Hawaii's Leahey and Leahey. A former Campbell High School teacher, Jim has informed sports fans with his commentary and play-by-play coverage on Hawaii radio and television for almost 40 years, though it seems longer, Jim. Dave Reardon is a sports columnist with the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. Dave has been a professional journalist focusing mostly on sports the past 30 years. He has won numerous local and national writing and reporting awards and has also contributed to many national publications, including USA Today and ESPN's College Football Encyclopedia. Associate Professor of Epidemiology and Environmental Sciences, Robert Cooney, chaired the University of Hawaii at Manoa's Faculty Senate for the 2011-2012 academic year. He also served several stints as a member of the Faculty Senate over the past 28 years. He is currently the Associate Chair for the Department of Public Health Sciences. A sports fan, Bob also played on President Al Simone's University of Hawaii's softball team in the late 1980s. He has a strong back and an ability to sit for a long time in a long meeting, 2 of them, 6.5-hour Senate meetings dealing with the Stevie Wonder fiasco. What did you learn in those meetings? What should we all have learned about administration of intercollegiate athletics at the university, and more important, the place of intercollegiate athletics there?
Well, I think first of all, it was clear that there was no clear line of authority as to who was running the sports program, and who the athletic department really answered to, whether it was the chancellor, the president, the board of regents, or individuals in the community. And that has to be defined. The chancellor has to have ultimate authority over the athletic department or over any department in the university. So that was, I think, one of the things that came out of that. The role of athletics, I don't think, really was addressed by the committee. I think it just raised questions, and I think that's probably why we're here tonight, is to begin that discussion, because it's one that needs to be pursued.
Should it be? I mean, we run an $11 million deficit over what, since 2002, I believe, or 2003. We have a tough time. I mean, as a basketball fan, I watch half the team disappear after 2 years, and another group of junior college guys show up. I know only 3 guys on the present team, I think, from last year who are there. Can we, in the middle of the Pacific, have a Division I sports program in so many different sports?
I believe we can. Maybe not in all the sports that we have, but I think history shows that we can be competitive. But I think we've gotten away from our roots in that sense. 30, 40 years ago, I noticed the difference in teams. They were more locally based, and they might not have been the contenders for the top 10, but they were competitive and they were exciting, and they brought the local fans in. And I think what we did somewhere along the way, we decided, well, we're going to go to the next phase and we're going to be in the top 10. And we got away from, I think, recruiting as many local kids and trying to go for more of the stars, and certainly at the coaching level. I think that's happened. And I don't think it served us well. I think Hawaii was successful in the past athletically by taking advantage of the unique attributes of the kids here and the local coaches. And I think we've gotten away from that, and we just can't compete with the USCs and Ohio States at that level, trying to play their game. I think we have to play our own game.
John McNamara, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think our coaches do a great job looking at local talent primarily and making sure that they recruit the best local talent to the programs. And then, of course, to fill other needs on the roster, then to look to the mainland to fill those needs. So, again, it is a priority. It's something we talk about all the time in terms of making sure that we do take a real good look at the local talent that's available to the program. Now, again, a lot of local talent that we talk to decides to go to mainland universities, and that's obviously something that we would like them to stay, but we understand when they feel the need to kind of spread their experiences to the mainland and go to other schools. But again, our coaches are talking to them and trying to make them see the value in terms of playing for the University of Hawaii.
Have you seen this change, Jim?
I've seen some of it, not all of it. I think that when you look at a Division I program in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, it has its own vagaries. It has its own personality. When you look at teams of the University of Hawaii and you put them on the highest level, which is Division I, I think that if you threaten that, if you go out and say, well, we shouldn't be Division I anymore because we can't sustain that, and you end it and you go to Division II or whatever, the next morning there will be a committee formed to bring us up to Division I, because that is on the highest level. And when I look at people, just people, and the kind of conduit that sports, intercollegiate athletics have in the community, people talk about sports. They don't talk about epidemiology. They talk about sports because sports is part of them, and the athletic department has that responsibility to get the university involved, everybody involved with the sports program, and have the university on a Division I level in all areas, And I think that's what sports does. If sports was taken away, the University of Hawaii would shrink. People wouldn't pay attention to it. People wouldn't, they'd just drive by, and it would be limited to the student body and the faculty, and that's it. I think that intercollegiate athletics gives a university a personality, gives the university the ability for the people to associate with it. And over the course of the years, I've seen that happen again, and again. From Governor Burns, who said that we should be in a conference, that we should be Division I.
I thought you were channeling him there just a moment ago, Governor Burns. That's exactly what he would argue.
That's exactly what he said. And so the point that I have seen, Hawaii has done very well. Hawaii has been very, very competitive. Hawaii has been able to win championships in every single sport.
But you could also argue, I mean, the University of Chicago gave up intercollegiate athletics some time ago. Nobody just drives by the University of Chicago.
Who talks about the University of Chicago?
Well, everybody in epidemiology and in most other academic fields talks about the University of Chicago. It's one of the great ones in the nation, probably always in the top 10, always in the top 10 scholastically. I'm sorry. Dave, you grew up in this town. Can we, and I've heard that you call this intersection out here, what is it? The dysfunction junction up here at the university. Can we survive this? Can our athletic program survive this? And does it in fact benefit most of the students?
Yeah, I'll address that last part first.
Okay.
If it's okay, while it's fresh in my mind. No. I took some notes. I did some research. The mean age of students at the University of Hawaii is 25 years old. And I think the demographic of students has changed quite a bit over the years. And going back to when there was one of the hot button issues was the student activity fee. And I was kind of in the minority, at least among sports-minded people, that the students should not be assessed this fee, because my argument was the students have spoken. They don't want this because they don't have time, a lot of them, maybe most of them, or finances or resources to go to games. A lot of these students now have their own families and they have jobs. Some of them have full-time jobs, some of them have 2 jobs, and I think a lot of other people are looking at students in another way, like, oh, they're partiers who are like leeching off of their parents, and they're just, they can afford it. And so no, I really do believe that most of the students don't really care. Now, John McNamara and Coach Chow, Coach Soji, they did a great job headed into this season to get students fired up. Now, the volleyball team has held up its end of the deal, as it almost always does, and is winning. Football is not, and when you're not winning, you're not going to get these students to come out, 15, how many miles is it? 15 miles from campus, regardless of, even if you pay them to get on that shuttle. So it's, the students are like everybody else. They're not going to go to see a team that's only won 1 game at this point.
Then the emphasis is always going to be on we've got to win. We've got to win games, no matter what. And if the university plays such an important role as drawing in the rest of the community, then we must always win. But what if we don't win? I mean, and the students, what they're interested in is getting their classes, having faculty available to them. Isn't that what most of the students care about?
I think so, and especially since you've got these older students and students who, a lot of them who don't live on campus. And another, I think this kind of ties back into the whole recruiting thing and kind of what we're talking about. I think this state, I believe that this state has an extremely fragile sports ego. And when we see our best players go to Notre Dame and Oregon and they're undefeated, and we wonder why, how come these guys didn't at least consider staying in Hawaii? And then I know one story about Manti Te'o, that the approach to him was basically botched. I'm not saying he would have gone to the University of Hawaii, but I'm saying that the recruiting initiation was botched, okay? And then with Mariota at Oregon, the quarterback, we're told that he was, there was a story last week about how he was not even approached by UH. Now, this story repeats itself over and over, and usually it's somewhere in the middle. UH will tell you, oh, we recruited that guy, and they'll say, no, they didn't, because what recruiting means is so variable. It can mean a letter in the mail, can mean one phone call, can mean leaving tickets for the kid, and the kid never comes. And so it's a very pliable thing as to how you want to perceive it and project it as to whether you're being recruited or not, and for the school itself too, as to whether it actually is recruiting a person or not.
No, John, how does the athletic department respond to those sorts of rumors? I mean, that they're really not going. I can remember the baseball team back in what were the great days when the
Eric Tatsuno.
Oh, and it was almost an all local team. It seemed to me, few fellows from the mainland, but now it's much more California team much of the time. Why does that come to pass?
I think it's just what I talked about initially in terms of the local players are talked to. But again, if expanding the horizons and a mainland university is their preference, then again, that's something that just plays itself out. We get a lot of local talent on our rosters, so I think that might be overlooked a little bit, and we've had success with local players, and it's been fantastic for them. It's been fantastic for the community. But I'd like to go back and address what Dave said about the student athletic fee, because again, I think we've got great fans. I think if we're competitive, the fans are going to be there. And then as far as the students are concerned, what we've done with the student athletic fee since it's been put in place is we want to make it an event for the students. It's not just about coming out and enjoying an athletic event, whether we win or lose. We've done things in terms of student giveaways, student activities, promotions, contests, all sorts of theme nights in men's basketball now. And again, Dave was right on. Our coaches have really gotten involved with this. Coach Chow, Coach Soji, now Gib Arnold, Laura Beeman, have really worked with us to make sure that we're always reaching out to the students. We have ads in the student newspaper all the time. The Chancellor's office works with us on email blasts to the students. We have always something for them to make sure that they come to the event and not only enjoy the contest, but enjoy the experience. And I think that that's something that the student athletic fee has allowed the impetus to happen for us to really raise the level of the experience for the students. And again, make college athletic events part of their total college experience.
But you have argued, I believe, that there's not enough coordination, there's not enough faculty or student input in the athletic program, in the hiring of coaches and ADs and so forth.
Oh, absolutely. I think the most recent example was the hiring of Coach Chow. And it's not that I have anything against Coach Chow, but the search committee, there were no faculty, there were no students, there were no representatives from Manoa on that search committee. And that was just uncalled for.
What would they add?
I think one aspect would be to make sure that the coach that was selected had a full appreciation for the primary mission of the university, which is education, and to make sure that they understood that. And I mean, you can't guarantee it, but at least there's an advocate there for what the real mission of the university is.
Jim,
what do you want me to say? Because when I look at this, it's more
whatever you want to say, my friend.
It's more than the students. Students are important, yes, but this has always been a commuter university, even when I went here. And the thing is that when you look at an athletic program, the athletic program is not only for the university, it's for the entire state. It's for the people of this state to have pride. It's for the people of this state to associate with quality at the University of Hawaii. And I will be the first to say that academically should be Division I, as well as athletics should be Division I in every subject. And one of my complaints is that there's not enough evidence of what really, truly, wonderfully goes on at this university, and we should do that during an athletic event to show that the university is more than just two dichotomies, just the athletics over here and academics over there. Let me tell you a story very shortly, hopefully, in the 1990s. In the 1990s with men's volleyball. Men's volleyball was nothing. Men's volleyball, no one came. Yeah. And all of a sudden, they had Yuval Katz. They had these players that came in who had hands like nozzles. They could hit the ball anywhere, in any style. And all of a sudden, young people, the students, young families, recent graduates, people who love the game of volleyball, which in Hawaii is just about everybody, started to come. And they filled up that arena. And they filled it up to the extent to where these players became rock stars. They had to hide in laundry carts to get out of the arena to get to the shower room after matches. It was wonderful to see. It was a gigantic explosion of interest, not only among the students, but among the young families in Hawaii, among the people that live here, that they could enjoy terrific volleyball. And it catapulted until the university made the decision, gee, there's so many people there, maybe we ought to redo the house and make it more expensive for people to come. The young people then, then went away. I mean, marketing is such an important thing, but that really was an example of how intercollegiate athletics in the community can really mushroom into something that was terrific. And you said that, oh, I remember baseball a long time ago. I remember last year. Last year,
had a good year. That's right.
He had a good year, and
that's a good point.
And the stadium was filled. So it's more than just the students, but it has to include the students.
Winning isn't the only thing. Winning is the only thing. It doesn't. You don't have to have local kids doing it.
Yes. The University of Hawaii has been cosmopolitan in all of its existence.
Tom in Manoa wants to know, what percentage of scholarships for basketball and football players get their degrees in 4 years? Not very high, right?
Well, actually, the overall student-athlete population is now equal with the student population of the university. So we've made great progress in that regard. I can't have the numbers to break it down by sport, but as a department, those numbers continue to go up, and that's something we're very proud of.
They're getting better.
Absolutely.
I would second that, and I don't work for the University of Hawaii. I've noticed over the course of decades that the athletes are smarter, nicer people, more respectful, and I know one reason, there's a very tangible reason, it's harder to get into the University of Hawaii now, even for athletes. You can be the greatest athlete in the world. If you don't have certain requirements, that you're not going to get in. You may be asked to, well, if you could go to this junior college in the mainland, we'll keep in touch with you, and hopefully in 2 years you'll be ready academically for the University of Hawaii, because we'd really love to have you on our team. But I think John's right on in that statement, and ironically, that may hurt some of the teams. And that now the two guys I mentioned earlier, especially Manti Te'o, and he could have gone to any school he wanted to in the world, and even if he wasn't a football, well, I wouldn't say go that far, but the football and his academics and everything else about the guy, he could have gone anywhere he wanted. And I think Mariota's a sharp guy too, who could have done that. And so they both could have gone to the University of Hawaii if they had chosen to. But it is tougher to get into the UH now than it used to be.
Do you think the academic requirements are high enough for our athletes?
Well, I think ultimately they need to be higher for the university as a whole. I think it goes back to what Jim was saying, that we have to be Division I in everything, and so I would hope that they would get even higher. But I would echo what John was saying, that indeed there has been improvement, and I would attribute a lot of that to the interaction between faculty and the athletic department, the creation of a faculty athletic representative that oversees progress and sometimes irritates some of the people in the athletic department, but holds their feet to the fire to get these students through and make sure that their academic needs are met.
John, how many times a semester do you hear a coach, or do you yourself or somebody kick a wall somewhere and say those up in the air snooty people up there on the hill on the other side of the quarry, what do they think they're doing talking to us this way? Or why are they making this? I noticed in your strategic plan you want more autonomy, you want to be in control of your money, and yet they've lent you money from upside, and they resent that over the last few years. So how do we work all this out? I mean, it's as though it's two different worlds, two different operating side by side and not necessarily integrated. Fair thing to say?
I think the wall is down. I think there's a lot of conversation with the athletic department and the faculty. They're the reason why our students are here. They're not necessarily here to compete in sports. They're here to get an education, and sports is something that they have as an added bonus to that college experience. So, I think there's a lot of continuing dialogue going on. We're very supportive of what they have to say. And again, I think it's getting even more and more as we go along, because it is so important. I mean, with the APR, pushing all of us, and that's an NCAA initiative.
Right, the APR, that stands for
Academic Progress Rate.
Right.
And we have to engage the faculty on that, because the only way we're going to continue to maintain and improve our APR is by getting the faculty to cooperate in terms of what is going to be required to make that happen. So we got to recruit the right kids, we've got to get them motivated athletically as well as academically, and then make sure the faculty understand we don't want these student athletes to have a free ride. We want them to get an education, we want them to graduate, and we need you to help us do that.
Stan Sheriff had a terrific plan that he noticed that the demands of intercollegiate athletics on athletes at the University of Hawaii, they were not graduating, quote, on time. They weren't graduating in 4 years. They would take a maximum of 12 credits per semester. That's not going to do it. So at the end of their eligibility, what was to be done with them? And he said, we have got to take care of the people who took care of our university, who represented our university. So we had a plan that people would contribute to help these student athletes eventually graduate. And that plan has worked really well. That was some of his vision, some of his vision. So there is that. I have a granddaughter that goes to the University of Hawaii. She's a sophomore now. In epistemology, or I don't know.
Epidemiology.
No, epidemiologist. but she says, you know, I have so-and-so in my class. I have a volleyball player in my class, or a basketball player in my class, and you know, we talk to them all the time. So there is this student back and forth that they're really interested in what they do, and to help each other out, that kind of thing. There is a connection there. And I mean, she tells me about that, and she does go to games and participates. But my point is that the university has an opportunity here through its athletic program as the conduit from the community. The athletics is the front porch of the universities, the front porch. People become familiar with university programs through its athletic programs, and I think that's really important for the University of Hawaii because of its geographic location. Hawaii will always be geographically threatened. You cannot wait until continental drift to get closer to the continent so you don't have to travel as far. That's not going to happen. But they have still succeeded. They have still been able to compete in all of these years in various sports.
I want to see a guy go from watching a basketball game to entering the epidemiology department. That's he's such a good talker, you know. He can persuade himself of it.
He watches basketball and then goes into the epidemiology department.
Dave,
I'd like to say that I believe that sports is indeed the front porch and the window, or whatever you want to say, for the university. And most of the time, that's a good thing. But in recent months, it's only a good thing in the long term if we're looking at the problems that have been exposed by something that, regardless of who's to blame, originated in the athletic department and was probably got more exposure and publicity because it was in the athletic department rather than if it had been in another area of campus that is not as interesting to the general public. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say wonder blunder on this show or not.
You can say whatever you want.
He said epistemology. So I think that can work both ways. But I think the hope for naive people like me is that by getting all this out there publicly and as much of it as possible and as accurately as possible, I don't think there are too many investigations. I don't think there is too much going on to expose some of this stuff and find out exactly what happened so it can be prevented in the future in all departments at the University of Hawaii.
But you know, I, with all due respect, when I first heard, I'm not a Stevie Wonder fan or whatever, but when I first heard about this, my first thought was it sounded, you know, like a Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland movie where the thing can't be paid for, and they say, well, let's have a variety show, right? Let's have a variety show and pay for the football program or pay for collegiate athletics, and then the next thing you know, somebody's writing a check for $200,000 and sending it to nowhere. That didn't make any sense. And you know, somebody says, Somebody says, I lost it. What's wrong with a pretty good football team? If Penn State is an example of big-time football, then I'll take small-time every time. I mean, there's a part where if something corrupts, not to say that we on faculty can't do some corruption ourselves, but if something corrupts, then maybe one has to ask about its essential value as a front porch, you know?
I go back to that idea of this state sports ego. We don't have a professional football team. The University of Hawaii football team is the big deal in sports here, and people get not only financially invested but emotionally invested heavily, and it is what it is. But then you have I think a silent group, and I don't know if it's a majority or not, of people who don't care and will never care because our population is somewhat transient, and there are people who come here who already have allegiances to other college sports teams and professional teams, and there's been a diffusion due to ESPN and other networks. There's a football game on every night. Kids grow up now not necessarily being attached to the University of Hawaii. They might be attached to something else they saw on TV because there's so much available now and also online.
Does the panel think that the stadium is run correctly? Is the revenue fairly distributed? Larry in Foster Village wants to know. I don't know how that stadium is run. Does anybody?
I don't think they do either.
What's the problem with the stadium?
I think the stadium's very well run. We have a great group of administrators out there that work very cooperatively with us in terms of staging our football games out there. As far as the way the finances of the stadium are structured, I think it's different than a lot of other colleges simply because it's a state-run facility. They might say, well, they get a greater share of the revenue. Yes, but they also have all the expenses, and we don't have those. So again, I think it's set up the way it is right now, and where the expenses flow, you could debate that, all you want. But at the end of the day, they also have to pay to upkeep the stadium and keep it operational, not only for our events, but the other events that are held there. So again, should this revenue source flow to the university, or should part of it flow? You can have that conversation. I think those conversations are ongoing. But as it stands right now, in terms of a group that we enjoy working with, who does a great job for us, we have nothing but positive to say about Aloha Stadium and the Stadium Authority and the staff that operates it.
The point here, though, is that football is the king. Football moves everything. If there's something wrong with football, there is something wrong systematically with the athletic department. And now there's something wrong with football. Football, all of a sudden, is not succeeding. We do not have a real athletic director. We have an acting athletic director who remains in the shadows, Darth Vader-like, okay? What I'm looking at is that for the first time, this thing is not working because of this scandal, because of the people who have been forced to leave their posts, such as Jim Donovan, and a new job. You didn't do anything wrong, Jim. You didn't do anything wrong, but you can't go back to your job. I mean, that is almost scandalous when you start thinking about it. But people are still talking about it. Oh, sure. They're still talking about sports. They're still talking about the program and how to fix this. And that's the question. How do you fix it? Because I've seen threats to the athletic department before. I've seen things not go well. But this is an abyss. This is a kind of a gigantic thing that doesn't have any form to it. Who fixes it? How does it get fixed? And that's the problem. And people are going to be very interested in how this works, because football is the king. And we need input from the faculty. We need input from people who see it in different ways in order to get the right answer. Are we going to have an athletic director that doesn't know the culture, that doesn't know the University of Hawaii's inner workings, and all of a sudden he's going to have a long time in order to get up to speed? I don't know. Is
this an abyss?
Oh, I agree. I think there is. And it's not just athletics, it's throughout the university and other departments as well. The same problem is occurring. And in my experience, faculty, the ones that are most successful, whether they're from here or come from outside, it takes a certain amount of time to adjust to the culture and get used to the culture. And that needs to be rewarded. And to bring people in constantly from outside who don't understand the culture, it leads to disaster.
Well, are you pointing a finger at the president of the university, Marcy Greenwood, or Tom Apple, the new chancellor? Seemed to me he showed up at a very bad time.
Oh yeah, he did.
He got handled.
I mean, I was on the search committee for him, and I feel very sorry for him. I think Tom Apple has the ability to adapt and to understand the culture here. He's been coming here for 20 years on his own before he was appointed.
Well, then, are you pointing a finger at President Greenwood?
She would be an example of that, of someone who comes in here and feels she knows best, and what her experience is better than anybody's here. And I think we need to get more people that come up through the system. And into those leadership positions, deans, directors, presidents, chancellors. We need to grow our own more, and I think then we'll be successful.
You were going to say something, Dave. I saw you taking notes. I thought that was a sign that you were going to.
Well, I think Chancellor Apple jumped into a forest fire wearing a flammable suit, and it was not really his fault, I think. I mean, in some ways, all right? Ultimately, we're all responsible for what we say. And like I made a flippant remark earlier about the stadium, and I want to amend that a little bit and say, I think in general it is well run, and they've had some problems with alcohol-induced fights, right, and that we haven't seen any of that in recent weeks, so hopefully that keeps going. But back to the, we talked a little bit about this before the show, the whole local versus mainland or international even, and it ties in so many ways with the athletes, which was discussed earlier, with faculty being given a look as far as rising into administrative posts, and it affects a lot of different entities in Hawaii, not just the university, and I think sometimes though you get the best synergy when you get someone who has a little bit of both, and a great AD right now would be if Mr. Sheriff could be cloned somehow or brought back, and because he was, to me, he was the best of what can be offered from outside perspective, and also having roots and understanding of the culture in Hawaii. So I don't know if that person exists, but if there is somebody out there with similar in background and skill set, that would be a good choice for athletic director.
I'm not nominating John or anything, but I was just but I was looking at his resume, and a guy coming from a place like University of Toledo as a background, and then stopping at a lot of other places along the way, then marrying a Hilo girl, right? Correct. Boy, that'll ground you. Believe me. I don't see that as people who have a lot of experience coming in are worth having. I mean, we can't base it all on arguing just local culture.
Oh, no, not at all. That's not what I was claiming. But you have to have some connection here. Right. You have to be able.
Are we talking power here? Are we talking little villages within the athletic department of power, of trying to gain control so that they can institute policies? And I think to a certain extent we are. When you think of Stan Sheriff and what he did with the Stan Sheriff Center,
incredible,
and put that up, he had to fight the local political culture, sure, who was adamant about not cooperating with him. They wanted a 4,000-seat arena because volleyball was important, basketball was not. And he said, no, we have to have something in the area of 15 to 20,000 so that in the future we can have NCAA rounds, tournaments in that particular building. His work in putting up that building, and I'll say it, killed him. Yeah. Killed him. And so you can see the kind of things that go on in dealing with power sources. And I think that the athletic department right now is in this power struggle, because there just seems to be too much, removal here, removal there. I mean, I've even heard that the assistant athletic directors were threatened with removal, but they were able to fight it off. I mean, that's just what I heard, John. Okay, but you see that kind of those kind of things happen.
Sure.
And how do we fix it now? How do we fix it? How do we satisfy the faculty? How do we satisfy the media? How do we satisfy the students? How do we get back on track to where athletics is a bona fide positive force?
Susan from Molokai doesn't think you can do it with football. She says she hates football. It is from the time of the Christians being thrown to the lions. She wants to join other mothers against head injuries. There is a new look at football, is there not? And the physical effects on kids of all ages and college and pros.
This past weekend in the NFL, it was brought home with 3 high-profile quarterbacks getting head injuries, and another one. It wasn't a head injury, but it was a potentially fatal injury, and it's at all levels of football. And I think what really needs to be done is, we were talking earlier about how academics has to be the priority, well, also the safety has to be the priority. And I think I'm not sure how much is going on here, but I think it's rampant that trainers are overruled or sometimes bullied by coaches, and the trainers have to have, and the medical personnel have to have the final say. I heard there was a game earlier this year where the radio reported that a player had sustained a concussion during the game.
This was at college or high school?
This was at a college, one very near us. And then, then after the game, we were told that, oh, that was a misdiagnosis. This was not a concussion. Now, there are other situations too where we hear head injuries or concussion type symptoms. The wording is done very carefully. And I was born at night, but not last night. So I'm thinking, okay, this guy. You talk to the guy, and you can often tell it's a concussion. And I'm not saying it's necessarily here or where it is, but there's coaches. Some of them are unscrupulous, and they're going to do workarounds on these things. But it's important. And sometimes the medical personnel, they have to stand firm. And I don't know how much power leverage they have in when they're making, when they're maybe volunteering, and the coach could be making $1 million a year.
How much power and influence do they have on a university football team?
Well, I mean, I think we try to listen to all stakeholders. I think that's really important to do, because you have to take it from everybody who's feeding into the sport, whether contributing to it or benefiting from it or enjoying it. I think, quite frankly, and talking what Dave is getting into, is these are serious issues because athletes are getting bigger, they're getting stronger, they're getting faster.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think the equipment issue is really taking on increased importance. And the great thing is that the NFL, the #1 sports organization in the world, is on top of this, because they understand that this is threatening their livelihood. If there's no grade school football, high school football, college football, where are they getting their players from? So they are investing, millions of dollars in researching better headgear, shoulder pads, padding throughout the uniform to make sure that some of these issues are addressed.
And there are new rules and penalties now on where you hit, right?
Correct.
I mean, at all levels. I'm an undergrad at UH right now, Surrey called. And right now, I don't have time to watch the sports teams. The academics are rigorous enough, and on top of that, I'm trying to pay for tuition by holding down 2 jobs. I know many other students who are doing the same thing. From my layman's perspective, it doesn't seem like students are really interested in collegiate athletics. When you're dealing with students all the time, what are they interested in intercollegiate athletics?
Some are, but probably the majority aren't. I would say that's true. I think, and I agree with Jim that athletics is important for the university. It is the gateway to the community. It's what a lot of the people in the community see. On the other hand, we have to be very careful about how that enterprise is run. And we need to make the connection to the community, but we have to remember that it's not the state team, it's the university's team. And
well, Patty says, stop kidding around. This isn't about students. The people who are pushing for bigger, stronger, better are non-student fans who are hungry for a winner. If the people want winning teams, then people need to put up the money to pay for it. Our costs, we are asking people to pay more, aren't we? I mean,
I had this idea that wouldn't fly now because of the recent developments over the summer and how people may have a little distrust now in where the money goes to specifically. But my idea was, like, you know how on your federal income tax form it asks you if you want to donate $3 to the presidential deal, and my idea was, like, on our state income tax form, have something saying, would you like to donate $2 to the University of Hawaii Athletic Fund? Now, it's sort of just a fun thing, but it'd probably take 18 years for it to get through legislature or whatever it had to do. But if indeed everyone in the state is a stakeholder, like Jim Donovan used to like to say, then there should be a lot of people who would be willing to throw in a couple of bucks extra, in addition to what they are de facto putting in through their, what's coming out of the legislature.
Well, I think that money always will be a problem. It will always be a problem for the price of the ticket. What's the best possible price you have for a ticket where the fan gets the value where he wants to go, he can afford to go, and have an experience there where he wants to see it again.
Right.
And that's a marketing skill. That's what marketing does. Last weekend they played at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And half of Aloha Stadium was in the sunny side, and half was in the shady side. So I said they should scale it like a bullfight. If you're in the shady side, you pay more. If you're in the sunny side, you pay less. That's marketing. That's part of it. But my point continues to be, if you can have all of this on a Division I level, where the entire community can participate in it and be proud of it, you've got to have leadership. And right now, I don't see it.
What's happened to that search for a new AD? I mean, wasn't there something about that we were going to have one by September, and now we're talking about January or February, and have we started even looking at the resumes?
Oh, well, one thing that concerns me greatly is that the chair of that search committee, Mr. Carlson, I believe is his name. I mean, he was implicated in the Senate hearings as being one of those that was improperly attempting to influence athletics. And why he is still on that committee, I have no idea. He should have been removed. A car, yeah.
But if financing athletics is so difficult to do, people in the community and people who are serving on boards and on committees like this are going to be people from the community, aren't they? And likely to chair them. How do you get away? And then didn't somebody quit? Was it Kobayashi? Who was it? There was a
Kobayashi.
And he resigned
because he didn't want to work with Mr. Apple
after all of this.
Right.
Sports is in a town of this size, or what am I talking about? And when they come to Iowa, or they go to Happy Valley in Pennsylvania, wherever they go. I mean, it's the alumni, and some people aren't alumni at all. We're just giving big money, right?
There are 1 million people on this island. 1 million. It's almost 1 million cars too, but we won't talk about that.
Won't talk about
That's
that.
not for tonight.
That's a different show.
Because there are so many people here, there is the opportunity for the university to market themselves to these people. I grew up in Hawaii, always fighting against you're second class, you're too far away. Hawaii is not equal with us. Even when we became a state, Hawaii is not, come on, Hawaii is not the same as the same as we are. The university has got to produce, we go back to the leadership thing, it's got to produce leadership where presidents that have gone to the University of Hawaii are presidents now of the University of Hawaii. I think you have to be very careful about being too insular, but there's hardly any local leadership, and that's what I think we need.
Here's an old saw that I agree with. This is yours, John. When are me and a certain guy who does a much higher rated TV show, when are we going to get back our UH Rainbow football team and drop the phony title Warriors? Because at that point, you'll get back the support of many loyal, long-time Rainbow fans. That was just a marketing decision with no regard for UH tradition, and they lost many football fans when they made that decision. There ever any talk of going back to it?
I think the branding and the nickname, which goes along very much with that, are talked about all the time. And but I think that since that decision was made, you're going to find is just a bigger camp, or maybe even larger, that really has embraced the Warrior nickname. Of course, we still have Rainbow Warriors. Our baseball team is Rainbows. We have the Rainbow Wahine. Not an ideal situation, but again, nicknames that have been embraced by the community, and I think are being managed quite well. Ideally, we'd like one nickname. I think that would be best to unify the department.
Drives announcers crazy.
Does it really?
Yes.
Because you don't know what to say.
Who are these
Where
guys?
are we?
Yeah, yeah.
But I think going there is an important thing, but the process is really, really important. It can't be such that we're just going to make a decision in a vacuum and spring it on the community. That's one that really has to be managed, and the process is very, very important. And I'd like to just go back to some of the conversation about finances and the support of this community. And I think there was an article in USA Today, and then a local article written by Ferd Lewis that really capsulized it, and I think it really put it into perspective. We can really only compare ourselves to the conferences that we compete in. And in the Mountain West Conference, we ranked 10th out of 12 schools in regards to subsidies that we receive from the university and from the students. And that's fairly low in terms of being competitive in that conference. In the Big West, we're dead last in that category. And again, you look at some of the numbers, talk about community support. Athletics is not unlike anything else in this community. If it's not supported, it's going to go away. And we look at the level of support that we get. Ticket sales in last fiscal year, we sold $6.7 million in tickets. Contributions were $3.2 million. Sponsorship and licensing, $3.2 million. Television and radio rights, $2.7 million. The interest is there, the support is there. And you look at, again, where we're ranking in terms of a department, we're generating about 75% of our total operating budget, where on average, the rest of the schools we're competing against in both the Mountain West and the Big West are generating an average of 50% or less. So this community has a lot to be proud of, because not only are they interested in UH athletics, they're actually putting their dollars to support it. And I think those are important information that needs to be shared and people need to be aware of, that we are getting great support from this community in relation to the conferences and the member schools that we're competing against.
But we have enormous costs too. I mean, of recruiting, of bringing kids out here to look at the school, of sending our teams off and playing on the mainland, and so that's bigger cost than a lot of those schools have, right?
Our travel is $3.4 million, and we pay that, but again, we're also bringing in dollars that doesn't require the school or the students to subsidize the athletic program. So again, we're generating about 75% of our operating, and that's really positive. So again, even though we have the largest travel costs of any school in the Mountain West or the Big West, that's a cost we're absorbing, and it's obviously very substantial.
We've only got about 3 minutes left, but I wanted to ask you, so you get, this is a horrible thing to give a professor, 45 seconds. If you got 45 seconds, how are we going to get out of this mess that we seem to be in at this moment, this crucial moment that we're in regard to intercollegiate athletics at the university?
I think it goes back to leadership. We need integrity and honesty in our leadership, and that's the only thing that's going to get us out of that.
On both the administrative side and also on the intercollegiate, in the quarry side as well.
Same thing. I mean, the leadership has to be there. The colors of this university used to be green and white. Then all of a sudden, a football coach comes in here, June Jones. He changes the colors of the university. Unilaterally, arbitrarily changes it to black and silver and green and white. And it stayed that way. And now it's official. I mean, if you have the ability to change tradition so easily, then we have to start concentrating on, wait a minute, this is where we are. Not just because you say, or because you're the football coach. You need some strength there.
And who we are.
Yes.
Dave?
Recruiting, I mean, that's, if we say football is king, and it is financially, it kind of makes some of the other things possible, including, and you got Title IX. And so if you can keep half of the top 10 players who are raised in Hawaii, who play high school football here each year, if you can do that, then that's a good start. And then you're going to win games, and then, as Norm Chow says, you can chase championships. And he stated one of his goals as being able to help the local kids here who can have the potential develop into NFL players, which has been done successfully in the past too with Dick Tomey, Greg McMackin, and June Jones, and so that should continue to be one of the goals as well as graduating the athletes, and then and it's good that you have the higher standards for the athletics and academics.
John, how we get out of this?
Well, I think that even due to some of the recent developments, this is a very good athletics program, and some of the recommendations that are coming out of these various audits on task force work is going to make us an even better athletic department, and we're going to get back on track very quickly once all the smoke clears on this.
When will we have a new AD?
The target date was December 6th, so I think early December we'll have a new athletic director in place, and we'll get a chance to set a new course.
At least it's not as long as a presidential election, you know. I kind of like that. Thank you all very much for coming to this serious show. Insights will be taking a night off next week for Thanksgiving. The following week, we'll be back with a look at the Affordable Care Act. Now that President Obama has been reelected, what's next for Obamacare? How will it change our health insurance system here in Hawaii? A serious subject. We'll talk with Governor Abercrombie's coordinator for healthcare transformation, along with other policymakers and representatives from the healthcare industry. That's next time on Insights on PBS Hawaii. We at PBS wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. I'm Dan Boylan. A hui ho.